So let's move to an active example of a future-facing Australian company. NextDC is exactly that. It's the country's biggest homegrown creator and owner of data centres. It has 16 data centres in Australia, 4 more right now in development, and another 3 in New Zealand, Japan and Malaysia. This week, it raised $1.3 billion from its shareholders, which will partly go to develop its first artificial intelligence factory. Chief Executive Craig Scroggie sees these new data centres need specialised cooling and power to meet the growing energy demands of advanced computing. Craig Scroggie joins me now from Brisbane. Craig, many thanks for your time. I just want to ask first off, when you sort of think about the future, and you can see what the government's doing now, creating handouts potentially to intervene in the economy, given the fact you've just raised $1.3 billion from your shareholders, do you need a government handout?
Ross, we've never needed government handouts. Over the course of the last decade, we've built one of the largest infrastructure platforms in this country. It's critically important that we think about what our future will be. The services economy in Australia, the production of jobs, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. The fourth industrial revolution is about the manufacturing of intelligence. Countries are going to be very, very focused on their own manufacturing of intelligence, the data sovereignty, protecting of their information. It's not only an economic imperative, but it's a regional security imperative as well. The cloud over the last decade was one of the most transformative technologies that we have seen in history. But the course of the next decade will reshape the way the world works in the future.
But just looking at this from even your own reports, you basically say the global AI market is expected to grow at an annual rate of 37% between this year and 2030, which is phenomenal. But it means that you need investment. You need to be able to invest in these new data centres, which are going to gobble up enormous amounts of energy, going to require enormous amounts of cooling to be able to do their job.
The role that we play, Ross, is essentially building the digital infrastructure platform that allows all of those, whether it's cybersecurity, public or private cloud computing, or artificial intelligence and machine learning platforms to run and grow, importantly, domestically in Australia and around the region. From our perspective, the role of government is to ensure that invests in roads, rail, port, water, and sustainable energy that will allow organisations like ours to build the foundation for the knowledge economy. It is critically important that government investments go in those areas that allow the free market to operate, that allow organisations to make enterprise investment decisions that will drive the growth of our future economy in Australia.
So in other words, you don't want and don't need direct government intervention.
We haven't, we don't, and we won't in the future. What we do need is very large-scale investments in sustainable and renewable future energy sources. We need viable long-term replacements for baseload coal. We need more solar, more wind, and we need to consider and open the debate on new energy technologies. They will be important as we move towards 2050. There is not enough energy today to replace baseload sources, let alone meet the 5 to 10 times increase in energy that will be required to power the fourth industrial revolution and all of the artificial intelligence and cloud infrastructure that needs to be built in this country.
So what's going to take place is there's going to be fundamental change to the way in which energy is generated into the future. But right here and now, you've got wind, you've got solar, you've got pumped hydro, and you've got potentially nuclear, which right now, of course, in this country, and the Labor Party still says it, is either not viable or simply not able to be undertaken.
Multiple energy sources are required for the energy transition. It is fair to say that we will make a disorderly transition to a renewable energy future. But Ross, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind is not always blowing. The scale and size of battery infrastructure required to create the baseload energy that's needed does not exist today. It is important for us to consider alternative energy sources in the future that will get us not only to the level of generation that we need to provide the services that run our economy, but will allow us to grow new industries in the fourth industrial revolution. It's something that we have to be open-minded about. I think the role of government is critically important here to take both sides of the argument and understand the longer-term investment decisions that we make towards 2050 to find sustainable, long-term, large-scale energy infrastructure. Just to give you one very quick example, 10 years ago when we built data centres, they were about 10 megawatts in size. Today, those data centres are more than 100 megawatts. And in only a few years, that will be a gigawatt. It will be 1,000 megawatts, from 10 to 100 to 1,000 in a decade. The energy infrastructure required to power the next evolution for our country is not in place today, nor is the scale transmission infrastructure that's required. And it's a critically important role that the government has to play. And that would allow government to then get out of the way and let the free market do its job and for industries to be created.
So I did mention about the enormous growth, that you've now got 14 data centres in Australia and you're putting them in far-flung places like Port Hedland right now. But the reality is that in future, you're not going to have 14. You might have 24 or 34. There's going to be many more data centres around Australia, all of them looking at artificial intelligence and all of them requiring so much more energy.
The company's ability to scale in the future, Ross, is unlimited. We are going through the single greatest transformation in the history of humankind. Every 18 months, more information is created than existed in all of mankind. It needs to be stored, shared, analysed. The potential for future in the context of the knowledge economy is extraordinary. Australia is very, very well placed if we can make great use of the resources that we have and spend our money in the areas that it will have the most significant influence. But we need to make those decisions for a transition to build a sustainable global leadership position in the knowledge economy. We have to make those decisions today.
Craig Scroggie, it is great to have you on the program and just to give us a glimpse of the future, because that's what it's about, and also for government. Highly instructive as well. Many thanks for your time.
Great to talk with you, Ross. Thank you.